Welcome to your daily discussion with Dena. I invite you to join me right here daily. Now, the topic for today is really going on at America's border. Is there a hidden agenda here? A hidden agenda in place that we are just not privy to at this time? Well, I certainly think so. Let's discuss it. Now, if you are not already aware of the invasion of illegal immigrants on America at the border by now, then you must definitely have been sleeping or buried under a rock somewhere. And you probably should stay under that rock to keep you a spot to live, because this man-made catastrophe is going to impact you and me at some point. Now, because there is a record number of illegals that are continuously being flooded into this country across the southern border, they are now being dispersed all over the place. They are being dispersed by bus or plane into every congressional district in this country, making every state, in essence, a border state. Now, we are told that they're coming to seek a better life. It would be to be honest, nowadays, it would just be better to admit that this is a place that has become a location for those who are immigrants to come to, as long as you are not black. This is a part of what I think is a hidden hand. It is part of a bigger agenda that includes using the open borders and ignoring the enormous toll that it has on the average citizens, which can include a heavy financial toll, but it's not limited to just higher taxes or overloading our school system, our emergency room, even bringing in diseases, gang violence, crime in the community. That's not all. The basic resources are being taken away from these localities and are given to these non-citizens. So you have to ask the question, what about the citizens? When I see this large number of illegals, immigrants being bussed into different parts of the country. Some have been flown into certain states, as I've said before, in cities, and they're being escorted to various hotels. And many simply walk into specially prepared sanctuaries and have living arrangements that have been prepared for them all across this country. It is interesting, and only a foolish person can observe and not question the impact or the cost to the taxpayers. That's me and you on a daily basis for this stuff that they're giving to these illegal people. And then I read that, I heard a report that said many of these people, once they went through the intake process, they're simply released. We don't know these people's backgrounds. We don't know what they're bringing with them that could offend or affect one of us. There is one hotel in particular that I saw on the news that taxpayers are footing a bill of $300 per night per room from this large hotel. And your lovely government of America is gladly paying this bill. But what about you? What do you get? I mean, there are so many homeless people. I knew immediately this is certainly not a humanitarian crisis. This is a plan. This is something that has been conjured up by this so-called hidden hand that people speak of. One thing I have learned living here in America is, and being educated in America and under the American system of government, there are no coincidences. In other words, things are never truly as they may appear to be on the outside. Only situations that are primed, they are prearranged, and they are well planned, are constructed and engineered for a particular outcome. The question is for us is to find out what exactly is the underlying reason that we are seeing this. Now, this is simply a facade. It's meant to cover up the real intent here. And we know the real intent the masses are just not privy to. Just a chosen few. However, it is always revealed and it is proudly confessed or professed to years down the line. At first, when seeing the thousands of illegal immigrants at the border, their living conditions, and how the government of America simply allowed these people to come into the country and release them. They wanted them and they helped them in. I was wondering, how in the heck is this legal? How is this proficient? And I was thinking, how are you protecting anyone from terrorists or diseases? What about that person's backgrounds, their crime, gangs, murderers, intent? They are letting all this in. But when I started to see a great number of these people taken into police stations where they were sleeping on the floor. You ever seen anything like that in your life? Many were sleeping on the sidewalks in a row, just a lot of them in El Paso, Texas. And I'm watching this on the news and I'm amazed. And for the past few months, I've seen this. I've seen them take entire hotels and old schools, and they use it to transform them and bring these people in. They're preparing a place for them. They house, they feed, they clothe, and they educate these immigrants. But this same government ignores the needs of the people here. They ignore my people, black people. Where are our reparations? Can you imagine all the funding that could have assisted us to prepare our own government, to prepare our own schools, our own communities? They didn't take that time to do this with us, but imagine the citizens here in America that have no home. There should not be any homeless people at all. There should be no one without jobs. The government should be assisting their own citizens here in America. I mean, no one should be without. People without health care, that should be taken care of by the government. Because if you have the ability to do this for those who are non-citizens, you should be required to do this for the citizens here. There are so many people already in this country that really don't know where the next meal is going to come from. The food is so high, it becomes a choice between buying food and or getting a utility cut off sometimes. And not to mention the cost of debt, just trying to make it and make the ends meet. It is so difficult nowadays, and they simply seem to ignore this for the American citizen today. So many citizens are on the brink of losing housing. Housing is so very expensive nowadays, and it's almost impossible for the average person to simply live on basic wage payments. Even if you're making more, maybe it's two of you working, but to be able to afford the simplest things, the prices are so astronomical that the cost, it makes it almost impossible for some people. But somehow the same government finds compassion and charity for illegal citizens, but not their own citizens. There should not be a single homeless American in this country. Anyone in need, that is. No one, because if this government have this kind of compassion for others, they should have it for their own citizens first and foremost. Now, why or how could a country simply ignore its own citizens' needs and put all of the focus primarily on a crisis that the current administration abetted and sustains? Because what we are clearly observing is a forged humanitarian crisis. It has been encouraged and facilitated by those in positions of leadership. And I don't think it is a lack of leadership anymore. I used to think that, but now I think it is a part of a much bigger agenda that we are just not privy to at this time. This is a faux crisis. It was actually exacerbated by the current administration. Now I ask the question, can't Congress or the government of America stop this man-made crisis? And I reflected back, Of course they can, if they chose to, because they have the power to stop it. Let's just go back and reflect a little bit. Remember how fast they showed their power and their ability to do something about immigrants or illegal immigrants at the border when there was an overabundance of Haitians that were waiting to enter the country? Was it last year or the year before? Remember, they were under that overpass? They had no problem solving that one. They simply loaded all those black people up. They took planes, trains, and automobiles and sent them right back where they came from. But what was the main difference here? And I am being sarcastic. So as we witness this vast number of illegals overwhelm our cities, our towns, and being shipped in daily by the thousands with the support of the Biden administration, it is pretty clear to me this is part of a bigger purpose that has not completely revealed itself as of yet. But just wait for it. In the meantime, here are some interesting facts about what America is doing with our tax dollars to help non-citizens, provide them with transportation, to help provide them with shelter, to provide them with food, education, clothing, job training, and even personal protection to accommodate these thousands of illegals. Now, annually, and this is based on the 2022 information, illegal immigration now costs taxpayers billions of dollars each and every year. And just imagine the cost for what this administration is allowing to happen today, what we are witnessing. The Heritage Foundation notes that in states far away from the southern border like Illinois, that cost was $4.59 billion in 2022. That's $930 per household every year. Just imagine the cost this year for the local communities. And these local communities are left to bear the cost of illegal immigration caused by the Biden administration, anti-enforcement, and open border policy. And imagine how those communities with meager funding already will end up being affected by this. The crisis now costs California $21.76 billion and Texas $8.88 billion annually in education, in health care, law enforcement, and criminal justice system costs, welfare, and more. Border states are often the subject of some shocking reports like epidemics of violent attacks, taxpayers footing the bill for illegal aliens, healthcare costs, and increased property destruction. However, there is more to the story. Considering the droves of illegal aliens the government is settling throughout this country, and the sheer number already in the interior of the United States, an estimated $15.5 million, and that was in 2021. This is 2023. $65,116 is said to be the cost per alien in New York City. And Mayor Eric Adams has been all over the news where he's requesting money from the federal government. And he had suggested that he would need $2.8 billion in the next fiscal year to deal with this influx of illegal immigrants. So in 2023, New Jersey will spend $15 million just to provide health care benefits to illegal alien children. As of September 2022, Operation Lone Star, which is a statewide effort by Texas to decrease illegal crossings and crack down on human and drug trafficking, had cost Texas over $4 billion. And if you average that out, it's about $2.5 million per week. And as of July 2022, Colorado was on track to spend $12 million per year in state and local government benefits, professional license, and business permits for illegal aliens. What about the citizens? So in March 2022, Oregon passed legislation that established the Universal Representation Fund, and it's providing $15 million in free, did you hear me? Free legal services, free legal representation for illegal aliens, primarily those that are facing deportation. So even if you look beyond the economic costs, there are still human costs associated with the crime levels that come with these people because of the open borders from this current administration. Crimes committed by illegal aliens have skyrocketed over the past few years, and we just recently heard of some of them. But in every category, including homicide, manslaughter, robbery, theft, drugs, sexual offenses, weapons, and even drug trafficking, it is impossible to put an exact price tag on how it is devastating the local families and communities with the crimes that come with this atmosphere that bringing that many people at one time can bring. But the U.S. Customs and Border Protection arrested 1,142 illegal aliens who were convicted of assault, battery, or domestic violence. 1,614 who were convicted of driving under the influence. Oh my God, can I bear witness to that? 2,239 who were convicted of drug possessions and trafficking. Additionally, they arrested 62 illegal aliens convicted of homicide or manslaughter, and 365 convicted of sexual offenses. So in total, in 2022, the Customs and Border Protections arrested 12,028 illegal aliens who have been convicted for various crimes. So the open border has always allowed Mexican drug cartels and other terrorists that may or may not be on the watch list to cross into this country unimpeded. So we have to keep these things in mind when we are observing the influx of immigrants on television. It comes with a lot of things that we may not be affected by at this time. But just hold on. At some point, it will affect you. The border crisis is just unsustainable, and it is dangerous. And these extraordinary financial and human costs are avoidable if we can have proper and secure borders. Now, there has been much talk of Biden himself refusing some of the changes that are necessary to get the problem with immigration under control. But it has to be. What kind of country can sustain itself with that policy? It's just not possible to continue sustaining a country with open borders. And the thing is, it's only for a particular group of people, of course. But how can this nation continue to afford open borders and a welfare state for non-citizens? Congress and the American people do have the ability to hold the Biden administration to account. But the question is, will they? Now, I, like most Black people here in America, I have the deepest of compassion for those that are in need. But this has been taken far beyond need. This is now agenda driven. It's clearly agenda driven. And that is why I say no to Joe in 2024. Now, I want to know what you think about this. Subscribe and leave me your comment. Let me know what you think about this immigration crisis. Do you think it was exacerbated by the current administration? Do you think America's duty is to feed, house, and shelter and give justice to these immigrants instead of their own? What do you think of Biden's handling of the immigration debacle altogether? Leave me a comment and let me know what you think. This has been your Daily Discussions with Dena. I'll see you next time. Ta-ta!
This concludes the Daily Discussions with Dena. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.